Hey guys, this is Mel, and I'm back to talk about Legacies, episode 315, titled A New Hope, which premiered Thursday, June 17, 2021 on the CW. I'm recording roughly 50 minutes after the episode is aired, so huge spoiler alert. If you haven't seen the episode already, please go do so first, and then come back and see what I have to say about the episode. My other video reminders are up on screen, so take a moment to remind yourselves of those. Quick YouTube shoutouts go to InTheGames123, Maria, Lyra, and Golden Angel 15. Thank you so much for your comment on 314. Truly appreciate it, and just thank you to everybody who just watched the video in general. Really appreciate you taking the time to hear what I have to say about it. Really means a lot to me, and I hope you continue coming back in the future, and especially for this one, because I gotta say, I had my reservations about this one, because as you know with the promo, we're getting a Star Wars like parody in this episode, so I'll admit I'm not really a big fan of Star Wars. I know, please don't come at me for that. But I never really got into it, and it was just so confusing, and it was just like, which is kind of crazy for me with some of the things I am actually interested in and dive fully into. But anyway, that's besides the point. So I thought it was pretty brave of them to go the route that they did, but let's fully dive into this episode to see what I really think about it, because I gotta say, there's a lot of stuff I wasn't expecting. So the episode quote is, and again, hoping to do this in 20 minutes. I don't think I will, but well, here's hoping. Episode quote of A New Hope is actually said by Lizzie to Hope, not only kind of in reference to the Star Wars franchise, but because of the character herself as Hope. So, and they're talking more of like, not like a new hope as in like the concept of hope, but actually like is like her like reinventing herself kind of a thing. Timeline wise though, this is kind of technically continues from the event of 314, just because Hope, Lizzie, and Josie are still under effects of the nightshade potion or a hallucinogenic that was thrown onto them by Andy before she jumped into the pit. But I think for Alark and all the other students, for them, it's the next day. So it's very possible that Hope, Josie, and Lizzie were just unconscious for like a good portion of the next day afterwards, because they woke up again when it was dark outside. So it's it takes place over the course of an actual day. And also Dorian's still in the hospital too from his injuries with the Wendigo in the previous episode. So there's that. Episode reminder, the fact that it's pretty much on the surface, it's a Star Wars parody. And like I said, because of the nightshade that was doused on Hope and the twins, they find themselves in this parody. Feature creature of the episode technically is still the Wendigo in the real world. And then kind of still Malivore in the parody world. But with the Wendigo, we find out, which was very, because I mentioned in the previous video how, like, I have come across Wendigos before in 2 other different shows. So the whole fire is his weakness thing wasn't a huge surprise to me. What was a surprise, though, in this episode, we find out that when a Wendigo is weak, it could take on a human form to allow itself a chance to feed. So again, there is a form of this where, well, I mentioned before, Charm Season 1, the original Charm, had the Wendigo having a human form. And I think they changed on the full moon. I'm not sure. Wait. I don't know. There's very specifics, but they both had a human form and a Wendigo form. And then on Supernatural, the Wendigo, after taking its final form, it could mimic the human voice. But we don't actually see them looking or passing as human again. So it's very interesting to see it in this case for this Wendigo. They can actually shapeshift in a way, because we got to see it change into MG. So we got 2 MGs at once. That hasn't been done in the previous Wendigo lore that I've seen come to life. So that was pretty interesting there. But let's go to the episode breakdown. So 3 different storylines. First one being the Star Wars Vision Quest. Second, bro bonding in the woods. And the third one is wounded reunions. So the first storyline deals really with Hope, Lizzie, and Josie finding themselves stuck on this vision quest due to the nightshade that was drenched all over them. Because as you remember, 1 drop of the nightshade was supposed to cause these hallucinogenic effects on the cult members of that witch retreat. They got drenched in the stuff. So they were going to be out for quite a bit. And it just so happens this Vision Quest, the Star Wars parody of sorts with space ninjas and the like, is actually set in a story that Lizzie wrote when she was 11 years old. And then later on, as it progresses, we find out that Hope's sequel to that story, as her own little version of therapy with all the teasing that was happening, was also included into it. So we find out in this little Vision Quest, I won't spoil it completely, but Lizzie takes the form of the princess, Josie takes on the form of her android sister, Hope takes on the form of a nameless or no-name scavenger. Though in the original version of Lizzie's story, Hope was actually supposed to be the villain that they were all trying to fight against, but then because it's supposed to be a Vision Quest for a reason, the villain ends up being a connection to Malivore, but they ended the Vision Quest with the realization that in order to defeat Malivore, Hope would have to become the Tribrid that Destiny has said that she is meant to be. So we'll talk a little bit more about what else was revealed in the Vision Quest there, but that was the main gist of it. The second storyline with Bro bonding in the woods, this involves MG, Caleb, and Jed being tasked to dispose of the Wendigo's body in the woods. And originally, Alaric gave the job to MG and Caleb, but then Caleb later on invited Jed to kind of be a buffer because Caleb still was having issues with MG. So you got a very awkward trio right here. We do see Caleb having special handshakes with both Jed and MG. They're different, so kind of simulating his closeness to the two of them individually, and just the fact that once he started doing the handshake again, it's like, oh, you're on good terms with him again. We also think that initially Caleb's issue with MG was the fact that he was doing all the superhero stuff with his vampire abilities with Ethan as opposed to with Caleb, because for Caleb, it wasn't a surprise that MG would try to use his abilities to help the world, because he always believed that MG would change the world one day. His bad feelings towards MG was because he was doing it with Ethan as opposed to doing it with Caleb. So they kind of made amends after that understanding, and MG's like, yeah, it should have been you, and why can't it be you, kind of a thing. So there's that. Not sure if there's going to be any mending on Jed and MG's part, but Jed's trying. It's just whether or not MG is willing to take that first step to opening up again. Now with Wounded reunions, this involves Alaric, Dorian, and Emma. Like I said before, Dorian is still in the hospital from getting injured by the Wendigo. Alaric goes to check over him, bring him some food, and then Emma flies in to see Dorian. She gets in a huge fight with Alaric, thinking that it's his fault that Dorian got hurt, and then Alaric sets her straight, saying like it was Dorian's choice, and saying that like if she really doesn't want Alaric to involve Dorian and he wants to keep him out of the supernatural world, then he'll respect that wish. But they come to an understanding that Alaric is always going to be part of the supernatural world because of his daughters being witches, and Emma realizes that's going to be the same for Dorian because she is a witch. So as long as he's with her, he's going to always be stuck in that world. So she's left with the decision that the level of involvement Dorian will have in the supernatural world will be dependent on him. Because she can't tell him to cut all ties when she will always be part of that world, kind of a thing. So there's that. Last scene of the moments, though, show Hope, Lizzie, and Josie finding out that Andy's spell resurrected Ryan Clark, a.k.a. Malivore's Gollum son, a.k.a. Landon's big bro, back alive. And it seems like Hope, naturally, is the only one who still remembers him and everything that he's done. I'm assuming, but he's really the only person she acknowledges from the looks of it. But that could just because he really only has a relationship. No, wait, he pretended to be Professor Artemis to kind of manipulate Josie, so there's that. But still, Hope definitely remembers Ryan. So at least we understand why I guess that makes sense because this episode also doesn't show any flashback, opening, or closing scene with Ryan like we've been getting for the last few episodes with him in the box. So that actually makes sense now. But anyways, characters. We find out a little bit more that for Lizzie, she was starting to have what she calls her episodes around the time when she was 11, which is why she kind of started writing the story, because she wasn't sure what was happening with her emotions, why they're going all sorts of which ways. And I don't know if it was naturally happening on its own and then Hope arrived at the school or entered their lives, or if Hope entering their lives is what kind of triggered them for Lizzie to have. But it's definitely why the story was a little bit more in depth and kind of all over the place with all these different elements she was including, was because it was an unknown time for her at that. Plus, we also find out when she was 11, she had a 2-week crush on Jed. Also, Ethan is only in one scene in this whole episode, and he plays Lizzie's love interest in her story. Her version of Han Solo, pretty much. They share a kiss when she says goodbye to him, and she says, like, his character lived up to everything her 11-year-old self thought he would be. So there's that. Also with MG, I didn't mention it, but when he returned to the boarding school, he got warm welcomes from all the other students as he made his way to his room. Also, it seems like him and Caleb were roommates, but his bed is now gone. So a little ice cold, but that's at the start there. Moving on to tidbits, we do not see Landon, Cleo, Finch, or Wade in this episode. We do find out that Dorian and Emma are married. I don't know if that was stated before in previous episodes or not, but it was definitely confirmed in this one. Also, we find out that Emma was working at the boarding house when Hope first arrived at the school, because she was the one that gave Hope the idea to write the sequel to Lizzie's story when everybody was kind of making jabs at her for being the villain in Lizzie's story. So Emma gave Hope the idea to write about her feelings in a story where she's the hero, and kind of work through her own emotions from everything that was happening. So that's something there. I didn't think that Emma would work that long, but it's kind of cool that she did work that long at the school. But moving on to the most shocking moment of the episode, the reason why I didn't want to say it in the episode breakdown was because we actually got the return of Kid Hope from season 4, played by, I think it's played by Summer, if I'm correct. Let me just double check that for sure. But yeah, we get, Summer Fontana. We get her back playing Hope Marshall, or the younger version of Hope in the sequel portion of Hope's story in this hallucination vision quest type of thing. So that was a huge shock there. Was not expecting that. And then also Ryan Clark's return was the other side shocker that we got. But let's move on to top 3 favorite moments. Okay, like I said, it's part of the shocker. The fact that we got Summer Fontana coming back as Hope Marshall. Completely unexpected, first of all. But what I really like the fact that not only did she come back, but it made sense now why she would come back during something like this hallucination, because it's, first off, Hope Marshall, because when Hope first joined the boarding school, no one knew that she was Klaus's daughter. No one knew that she was a Michelson. She went by Haley's maiden name, which was Marshall. So it made sense why she was introduced into this story as that. And then what I really liked about it was the fact that it made sense for her return because she was tied in with the whole Hollow storyline. Like the introduction of it on the originals was with Summer. So to have it brought back into the Legacies history and to have her doing it as like she really playing the character that it truly affected, because yes, we got older Hope dealing with it 5 years later, but the root of it was when she was just a little kid. So what I really liked about it is from that we really got to see Hope Marshall, and through her we got to see the way Hope was feeling at that time when she was about like 7, 8, if I remember correctly. Another thing too, let me go back at it. But because she just found out, Lark just met Hope at the end of season 4. That's when Haley started enrolling her, just when her family had to split off because the Hollow got taken out of them and out of Hope. So then to have her talk about the fear she has in the Hollow and how in this story she needed to find a way to defeat the Hollow so that her family can come and back for her, because they couldn't be with her while the Hollow was still an issue. It was what was keeping them apart. And then to have that all back, and then to have her describe Josie and Lizzie in these very encouraging ways, where she viewed Josie as a protector and Lizzie as someone smarter than anybody thinks she is, and in more positive ways than what we would have expected for Kid Hope to think, because at that time everyone thought Hope hated everybody. She was isolated, she was the loner, very troubled, kept to herself. Everybody thought that she hated all of them and she hated being there. That's why everyone distanced themselves from her. So it was very interesting to get how she viewed everything through Hope Marshall, saying it as if it was her like backstory and character piece kind of a thing. So it was really great to get that type of an insight. And then because of that, though, because of her and bringing up the Hollow, what I really liked is that Lizzie and Josie also gained an understanding of what Hope was dealing with. Because when they first met Hope, she was dealing with the fact that she had to be separated from her family, her parents, or her father and the rest of her family. She only had her mother. She was being enrolled at this school because she had this dark magic possessing her known as the Hollow. So it's a lot of darkness that was brewing inside of her, and it was all because this thing wanted to feed off of her ability. And it's why she distanced herself from everybody. And then Josie and Lizzie had no idea that was happening to Hope when she came to the school. I mean, it took them 5 years later to finally exercise it out of Hope when she forced all of it out of her father and her aunts and uncles and into her. And then they needed the twins to exercise it out of her and put it into Klaus. And they were so young, they didn't even know what they were doing. They didn't even know what they were doing. So they didn't really grasp the situation of what was happening with Hope. And I really like that it was brought up. It allowed for a greater understanding, which kind of ties into my second favorite, was just the moment that all Hope, Josie, and Lizzie had once they got out of the Vision Quest, when they were just processing everything that was happening. Even throughout their Vision Quest is when they took a moment to just sit and really think about like that time in their lives where like they all thought that each other hated one another, that and all they really wanted was to be friends with each other, but things were keeping them apart and distant. And also the fact that like at that time Lizzie was worried that Alark would always pick Hope over her or over Josie. Like they thought they were losing their father in that sense, and that's kind of part of the resentment they had over Hope. But then they never realized that part of the reason why Alark was so focused on Hope was not only because like she's Klaus's daughter, but also because she had this ancient power possessing her, and he wanted to make sure that didn't break free and was a danger to all the other students, while also helping a kid who's pretty much being forced away from her family, kind of a thing. And so it was very interesting to finally get them to have a further understanding of what was happening in their past. And I really like that they were apologizing to each other about how they behaved towards each other. At that time, it was just like, I really love it when they sit down and fully, and it was also even more of a huge thing I like when we touch on things that were brought up in like Vampire Diaries in the originals type of a timeline, and to have them like reflect on it and like really gain an understanding of like, oh, that is what was happening. And then to just see them all come together. And then also to tie into that, they were talking about how like Hope knew for a while that in order to defeat the Malivore, she had to become a tribrid. But then to become a tribrid means that she's constantly stuck in the trauma that she continuously has to face, and she doesn't want that. But not doing that could endanger the people she cares for, because she's the only one that could stop the monsters that keep coming. If she's not at her full potential, then like it's kind of her fault, she kind of thinks. So to have that weigh down on her and to be brought up the fact like, I'm a loophole, my whole purpose of being alive is to defeat Malivore, and like all this destiny talk. And then to have Josie and Lizzie tell Hope that they'd find another way, that they don't know what being a tribrid would do to her, like a full tribrid, activating that vampirism, what the consequences of that would be for her. And they want to be able to find a way so that Hope doesn't have to take that irreversible path. And even Josie made a good point of saying that the Vision Quest showed that you faced Malivore alone, and doing so you had to become the tribrid. So she thinks that if you have a group of people to help you take down Malivore, maybe you won't have to become a tribrid to do it. And I'm really hoping she's right about that, because Hope has always had to go things alone. And it'd be really great that if she could just rely on those closest to her to allow for, because like honestly, if it took three separate people, a vampire, a witch, and a werewolf to create Malivore, I don't see why three more separate people couldn't just do the exact same thing to undo what he had done, kind of a thing. So I hope they're right, but I really like that they formed a further promise and bond between them about finding a way so that Hope didn't have to become a tribrid. As much as we all want to see it happen, it was just really great to see them being on the same side, like fully and completely. So it's like, that's like a huge favorite for me, for sure. And something I wasn't really expecting either, from what I thought was just going to be a Star Wars parody, and like just taking the opportunity to do something like this. But to have so much backstory woven into this experience, and to have them really learning and reflecting from it, that's kind of what turned this episode around for me. It's just like, that's the reason why, like, okay, I'll be willing to put aside all the Star Wars references I'm not going to get and all that, just because like I'm getting the growth between these three, and I'm loving it. Another thing I really like is the fact that MG and Caleb finally got to hash out what was going on between them. They finally got to talk it out. And it was just something like, I'm kind of surprised that they've been away for so long from each other. But I can kind of understand, too, why they've been separated for so long. So it's great to see that they're on good terms again. It's kind of funny when Jed kind of like included himself in that group hug that they were having. But I'm really excited to see what MG and Caleb will do next. I'm hoping maybe MG can kind of slowly get to be more open to Jed. Like, I know Alyssa's still a sore subject, but like, just include Jed in there. Don't leave him out, kind of a thing. But I do get like the vampire bromance thing it's a good one, and I really appreciate that they had that time together. Now move on to top 3 peeves. Now originally I thought I would have one just because of like the whole parody aspect, but like I really had to think about it for the peeves for this. So first peeve is the fact that Clark's back. I understand why he would be back. I'm just peeved because I don't trust him. He could be on our side 1 minute and double crossing us the next. So like I'm more anxious now that he's back. So that's why. Another peep I did have was that while I love seeing Tribrid Hope, I'm kind of a little mad that the only aspect of her Tribrid status we saw was after the fact that she killed Malivore. And it's her glowing eyes with the vampire veins that we saw. I was expecting something more gruesome to make it a difference between regular Hope's actions and Tribord Hope's actions, because I didn't notice any fighting style differences. I didn't notice, like, to me, she physically looked like she was still doing the same things that she was still doing. The only difference was the very end when she showed that face. I was expecting more gruesome, like a little bit of Klaus and Haley popping in when they tap into their hybrid status. But yeah, that's the only peeve, was just the fact that we only found out after the fact. There wasn't anything during the fight that alluded to it being, oh wait, she wasn't able to do that before, like now she's able to do that. What gives, kind of a thing. Another peeve is something I was just thinking of right now, is that I believe the age discrepancies are very different, because Lizzie mentions the fact that she was 11 years old when she wrote the story, and it is around the time that Hope was just entering their lives. I don't know if she was writing it after a year of Hope being at the school or not, or if it was like really like the start of like her just being there. But the thing that kind of confuses me is the fact that Hope is technically supposed to be a year or two older than Josie and Lizzie. And if we have Josie and Lizzie, and season 4 took place when Hope was 7. So that means she would have been introduced to Alaric when she was about 7, 8. And then that's when she probably would have started going to the school. So in order for that to make sense, then that would mean that Lizzie and Josie would have to have been about like 5 or 6 when Hope just starts going to the school. So if they're about 11, that means that's like 5 or 6 years that Hope's already been at the school, which would then line up to us meeting season 5 Hope on the originals, which was Danielle, but she was like younger, so that would have led her to being like 13 and 14. Right? Yeah, that makes about right. So, yeah, that's the only thing. Age 11 matches when, like, we saw the twins in season 5 of the originals. Because then Hope would have been about 13, 14, which is when we first met Daniela in the role of Hope. But it doesn't match if Lizzie was meant to have written this story when Hope was just starting at the school, when she was about 7 or 8, which was 5 years previously. Right, so that's the only thing. You know me and my timelines and my ages. Especially with something like the Vampire Diaries universe, is like there are very some specific dates that they've already like established, and the fact that they don't carry it through all the way kind of really pisses me off at times. But something like that is just like, I feel like they always forget that like Hope is not actually the same age as the twins. She's meant to be a year or two older. So, I mean, the way to think that is that because the twins were born in season 7 of the Vampire Diaries, and Hope was born during season 5, because that was season 1 of the originals. And they were born in season 7 before the whole time jump to 3 years later. So yeah, anyways, that's a peeve, the whole age discrepancy thing, but there's that. Moving on to random questions very quickly. In Lizzie's original story, when she was 11, she had named Hope as the villain. But who was meant to be the chosen one then? Because when they tried to reveal the chosen one in their version, Lizzie wasn't it, adult Hope wasn't it. So who... And Hope was always meant to be the villain. So who was going to be the chosen one in the original story? Because we know she ends up being the chosen one in the sequel, in her own sequel. So I'm wondering who would have been. And also, second question. When Ryan Clark made his deal with Andy 18 months ago, did he know that she would ultimately need to resurrect him again? Or was her spell originally meant for someone else to come out of the pit? Because also I'm trying to remember, what were they doing 18 months ago? Like, was that meant to line up before we met him in season 1? Or was that sometime between season 1 and season 2? No, not possible. Has to be before we met him in season 1. Because at the end of season 1, both him and Hope went into Malivore. And then they came out in season 2. Has it only really been 18 months since before the series started? That's crazy. Next question. Because of Alaric's talk with Emma about Dorian's involvement in the supernatural world, does this mean that Dorian and Emma are like here to stay on a more like recurring appearance type of a thing? Or Dorian at least? Or is he just going to pop up here and there as the high school principal? I hope he gets more Dorian then. I miss him being at the school. And I miss Emma being at the school too, but I can understand why she'd want to get away from all the monster business. So there's that. But let's move on to predictions very quickly based off the promo for the next episode for 316. It's the season finale, if you can believe we're already at that time. And it looks like Cleo and Landon are robbing a museum, and Alaric and the other students have no idea why. We see Hope finding them holding hands in what looks like a motel room, and she wonders what the hell is going on. Rightfully so. Probably with them holding hands, but also with the whole robbing of a museum thing. Possibly for an artifact. But the synopsis, though, for the episode reads, Hope is forced to work with someone from her past. Caleb and MG go on their first official superhero mission. Lizzie's plan to find Hope a rebound relationship takes an unexpected turn. Alaric, Landon, Josie, and Ethan also appear. For rebound relationships, for Lizzie's plan to find Hope a rebound relationship, I can only think of maybe Ethan is who she tries to hook Hope up with, but then the unexpected turn could be Lizzie going after Ethan instead, after their whole kiss in her 11-year-old story. I could see that being the unexpected turn. For the someone from her past, obviously it's Ryan. So that's not a huge surprise there. But there's no mention of Jed in here. So that'll be interesting. But yeah, so we'll just have to wait and see what's in store for the season finale. Again, the original 4 episodes we thought we were also getting to make this 20 episodes this season are now being moved to season 4, I guess due to production timing. But they did reveal that the season 4 premiere is going to be on Thursday, October 14th at 9 p.m. So it looks like we're roughly going to be starting back up when we normally would start the new seasons. So that's going to be pretty exciting. That means it's a little less of a wait in between the two, which is pretty good. Like, what was it? 1, 2, 3. 3.5 months, which is pretty good. Yeah, so I'm truly excited about that. I'm really, really pleased with this episode, guys. What did you guys think about it? What did you like? What surprised you? Please let me know in the comments down below. I'd love to hear your own thoughts, theories, and opinions about all that good stuff. Also, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to my channel, and check my other videos if you haven't done so already. If you want, check out my Tumblr page. Link for that is down below. I read blog, promos, web clips, quotes, gifs, synopses, news, all that good stuff, all found in one place. Go check that out. I am behind, but I am behind. I've been trying to do more screenwriting lately just to get my own stories forming as quick as I can. But I don't type as fast as my brain works. But it's on my list of things to do. Plus, there are a bunch of other episodes I do have to do videos for. That's on my list of things to do as well. But also check out my WordPress. Link for that is down below. Anything I post online is connected to WordPress. It's a little more organized, a little more detailed, but still a work in progress as well. But guys, that is going to be pretty much it for today. I hope you come back next week to see what I have to say about the season finale. But until then, guys, this is Mel. Wish you all a great day, great week wherever you are. Please stay safe. Please wear a mask, wear it, and when it is needed to do so, until we can all safely go without. So guys, take care and have yourself a great day. Bye for now.